Let me quickly introduce our distinguished guests that we have today. First of all, we have Abhijit Pendigiri, who is Director of Product Management at Oracle Health and AI. With 18 years of experience, Abhijit has proven track record in building roadmaps for SaaS-based products for B2B and B2B, B2C markets. He has successfully launched and managed AI-enabled health tech products, driving approximately $80 million ARR and 50,000 plus users. He is ISPMA fellow member and visiting faculty at esteemed institutions like IIM Bangalore, IIM Sambalpur, and IIIT Bangalore. Next, we have Hardik Kamdar, Senior Director Product Management at ZS. With over 15 years of experience, he has been instrumental in defining product roadmaps and collaborating across teams for success, and especially in enterprise B2B sector, including pharma and life sciences. He is certified Scrum Product Owner and certified Pragmatic Marketing Professional. Next, we have Sumit Saurav, who is Director of Product Management at MasterCard. With over 15 years of experience, Sumit leads a platform at MasterCard, shaping product strategy and driving innovation that has generated multi-million revenue for the company. He has expertise in crafting strategic roadmaps, building high-performing teams, and leveraging AI to enhance products. He is certified AI for leadership and safe agile methodology. Sumit is known for delivering tailored solutions in complex regulatory environments. Next, we have Neeraj Sanghvi, who is Senior Director of Product Management at Mindtickle. Neeraj started his career in enterprise B2B SaaS as a growth or a sales hacker when Mindtickle was hiring its first set of people in the US. Since then, he has worked across pre-sales, post-sales, and then transitioned to product. He has built multiple products and he is playing pivotal role in redefining the PMF and building vertical solutions. Currently, he owns a product strategy for a lot of core products amounting to $50 million in ARR. Finally, we have Karan Shukla. He is a Senior Product Manager with Allstate, with diverse experience of over 15 years, leading product innovation in the claims division and driving improvements in customer experience through data analytics and user research. He is an entrepreneur at heart and has worked across startups and enterprises. And Karan will be our moderator for this session. I welcome you all and I welcome all our distinguished panelists to this event, and I hand over to Karan on the stage.
Thank you. So this is a career panel discussion after the leadership and the product panel, and we'll try and focus this much more about you, the audience, so you can get the best out of all the questions. There are other panelists will also be around during the lunchtime, so feel free to discuss with them. But I think before we get started, let's quickly get a sense of what this audience mix is like, whether there are PMs or not. So maybe a quick raise of hands for aspiring product managers, if you can raise your hands. Okay, so about 30% again. And people who are in entry-level product roles, maybe anywhere between 1 to 5 years of experience. Quick raise of hands. All right, that's about 20%. And rest of the people who have more than 5 years of experience, a quick raise of hands. All right, about nearly 40 to 50%. So that gives you a little bit of a mix of what this audience is about. So I like this question which Sai asked in the morning. So that is something that I want to ask my panelists, but maybe something I will ask at the end, which was, what is that something that you felt was right, but you later on realized was not true. Maybe something that you can think about it, and I'll come back to it at the end. Sort of what he says as make me smart question. But let me start by asking you the first question that I have based on what I see is important. Basically this discussion is about future-proofing your career, and all of the organizations these days are either working towards building products and experiences which use generative AI, artificial intelligence, or at the same time have a clear vision to work towards it. So my question to each one of you is, and please feel free to add your own personal experience because everybody will be able to correlate to this, is how do you think are these emerging technologies transforming product management space, and what's the need to develop, how do you change, and then maybe add your experience and flavor to it. So let's start with you, Vijay.
Yeah, thanks for the introductions and very good afternoon. It's been a pleasure and honor to sit in front of and in between all the product management leaders here. So I'll try to answer the question based on my own experience and what I've seen, the cohort that I work with or the peers that I work with, their experience, right? Majority of the companies and majority of my experience comes from B2B. And majority of the B2B companies are getting disrupted, right? With GenAI is just tip of the iceberg. There is so many things that would come in the near future, probably in next 2 to 5 years or 10 years, if you call it that way. But the way the companies are reimagining themselves, they are considering a lot of legacy products which we had specifically in Oracle. We had products deployed on-prem products with the users for 40 years, 50 years, and we have done little to kind of fund those products for modernization activities, right? For cloud-related offerings that we have done. And AI has taken a lot of lead with our cloud-based offerings, SaaS-based offerings, which has happened over the last few years or so. So I certainly see there is a definite scope for reimagining product management as well. The core concepts, of course, we would reveal that and we would talk about it as and when we move forward with this discussion, but still remain constant. There would be constants in the equation, otherwise the equation would become like unresolvable. So there would still be constants which a product manager needs to understand, but with the reimagining companies, customers, consumerization, behaviors are changing and expectations are changing. Of course, product management needs to reimagine itself. I'll have the other esteemed panel members to talk about it, but I certainly believe that understanding a little bit of a technology would certainly not go waste, right? Which probably was good to have, kind of a phenomenon or a principle. Whenever I used to get asked 5 years down the line, 5 years in the past, that whether you need technology knowledge and technology understanding. For a company, of course, it depends on the organization, of course, it depends on the products that you're building. But as of now, what my answer to most of the product managers is, it certainly would help you to have at least some flavor of some technology or some database that would take you ahead in the competition, or at least help you survive in the competition. So that's my answer.
Yeah, maybe if I can quickly ask a question before I come to you, Hadik. When you say understanding technologies, typically product managers are not supposed to write code. But when you say understanding technologies, do you mean how does it function so that you can have technical communication with the right folks, stakeholders?
Yeah, the time has not yet come, at least in the companies that I have seen, where the product managers would be asked to code, to program, right? But I don't know, I mean, with the things changing, that might also be a possibility, probably 5 years or 6 years or 10 years down the line. I never know. You never know, right? So when I say you need to understand technology, at least surface level understanding, because for those of you who are aspiring product managers or the product managers who have been in the system for 1 to 5 years, your major stakeholders are engineering, your major stakeholders are probably support. So it's important that you understand what engineers are talking about. And it was always a phenomenon earlier as well, but nowadays with new concepts being realized, new modernization platforms being considered, it's become more important to understand at least the surface level technology concepts, is what I meant by that.
Sure.
Right, so good afternoon everyone. I think just take a step back and look at how the industry or the tech trends have evolved in the last few years, right? This question would have still been relevant 15 years back with some other technology buzzword or a aspect that was in the hype cycle, and will still be relevant 15 years from now when something new will introduce. Back in the early 2000s, digitization was at its peak. We wanted to digitize most of the aspects of how different processes work. Post-digitization, there was an emphasis on how do we better the overall efficiencies and user experience. With the introduction of mobile apps, hybrid apps, it had kind of went through that. Then came the time when we wanted to integrate everything. IoT came into the picture. We wanted to kind of have different applications work with each other. Then came the time when we started really understanding the power of data. So that's when big data boom happened. AI was always there, but AI was evolving. That's when your classic AI got transformed into Gen AI use cases and yours. So the crux of the response is, as a product manager, if I have to take a step back and look at what has happened is, we have constantly rediscovered and reimagined how certain things can happen. And that's the only thing that will kind of keep us moving forward. And that's how I think all the companies, whether it's B2B, B2C, B2, B2C, they will also kind of do. Because as and technologies redefine or discover themselves, we are there to kind of adopt it and make life easier for our consumers, for our buyers. But one thing is as important as product manager is, throughout all this, a product manager would not have succeeded if they do not know the basics of what domain that they function in. If they do not have clarity about what their user needs are. If they do not have understanding of what the real process to kind of build a successful feature is. So those are some of the basics that should never be diluted while you constantly rediscover yourselves. It's a never-ending game. Like today we are talking about Gen AI, I'm pretty sure in 5 years from now there will be something else which we should be talking about. Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Interesting.
So good afternoon, everyone. Sumit here. So means many aspects has already been covered, but one thing I would like to say is every emerging technology is bringing more to the GDP of the world. So if you talk about AI alone would bring close to 350 billion addition by 2030. So what does it mean? It means that it is going to grow the pie. And when it is going to grow the pie, it means you have opportunity to discover in that domain. So as a product manager, that technology fluency, at least the fluency part should be a necessity for us to adopt. Means we should know what we are talking, what technologies are emerging, what kind of opportunities they throw on us.
So if I may ask a question, so what the sense that I'm getting from you and Hardik is that even though the technology is changing, it has been happening in a time, we should not look at it as something to be feared. Yes. We should evolve and look at that it's going to create abundance.
Abundance, yes. And I'll quote an example here. So MasterCard, traditionally I'll not go into the intricacies of MasterCard, but it's considered to be a card company. It's a technology company in payment domain. When a transaction happens and suppose it gets declined, very common example, okay. Our revenue and the value added revenue goes into drain. With every declined transaction, we are losing something, not gaining something, okay. However, with AI, we discovered the way of how to turn those decline into a accepted transaction. And we started charging for that advice. And that grew our revenue part significantly. So unless a product manager would not know what AI could bring to the table, despite knowing that there is a problem in declining transactions, they will not be able to innovate in that part. And that is why we need to know how a technology is evolving, what it could bring to the table. This is where I will conclude.
Yeah.
A lot of comments have been made and I agree with everything that's been mentioned there. I would just mention that as someone who's looking at AI as well, it might just be prudent to start with utilizing the technology for your own good, automate your own busy work. You've got tons of AI tools out there, chat PRDs and everything. And I'm just saying it because it'll give you a sense of most of those things. And obviously you can build on it. But what I've seen work well is AI opens up a lot of different ways in which you can solve for problems. Identifying the problem, the human aspects of it, it's not going to change. That is the core job of the product manager. But when you're looking to solve a problem, talk about big data, talk about summaries, we had multiple problems within MindTickle as well, and very, very innovative solutions came about through AI. Very simple use case was, I want to search for a collateral because I want to answer a customer question that has been asked to me. I could browse through semantics and I could do tons of different things on search and get to that collateral, versus I can just ask a simple prompt or a simple question and I get a summary of, okay, this is the answer that I need to provide to my customer. So my only point here is AI should be used as a tool and would be used as a tool, much like you use any other tool, but it opens up a lot of doors for innovative solutions. Hence, staying on top of it is important, and a way to do that would be leveraging it for your own good in product management.
Very interesting. So I think the theme that I'm getting is that we should look at it from an open mind, adopt it, but the expectation or the realization of a product management role, which is probably was there 5 to 10 years back, is now changing and evolving. Which brings me to my next question, and this is something which each of you would be able to relate, whether you are making a transition, whether you are a senior leadership role, is what is the relevance of product management today? So when I say that, I'm basically looking at the fact that all of you, I'm sure, are involved in core hiring decisions as well. You look at talent. I think Sumit also asked this question about what is that you asked to be an analyst, but what is that is something that you believe, irrespective of Gen AI technology, is going to stay? That's one. And secondly, what do you think is the relevancy of product management going forward, not just from a skill perspective, but from a mindset perspective? So maybe if you could talk about it, Neeraj, if you could maybe start with that.
So you're talking about mostly what skills would help.
Yes, skills and the relevancy of product management. What do you think is not going to be disrupted?
So since we are on the topic of AI, I just mentioned this. With AI, of course, as we were talking about, there are solutions that come in, but the core human tenets of product management stay. You will not be able to disrupt empathy. You will not be able to disrupt creativity, communication, and various other things that are very key to product management role, right? And talking about when we make hiring decisions and when we are hiring, one of the primary things that I love to look at is first principle problem solving approach with a very structured mindset towards approaching a particular problem and a very deep sense of ownership. Those would be the most important things. Of course, there are various other things that come along with it. From sharing some uses, so one of the interesting questions that I love to ask when we are hiring is, let's say you have all the money in the world and you've got n number of resources. What is that one problem that you would want to solve in India and why? So it just gets you thinking, zoom in, zoom out, and understand like what kind of a person you are evaluating.
Maybe if I go to the other panelists, if I can dive a little deeper, does it change with the seniority of level? If you are, let's say, somebody like about 20-30% people are, less than 5 years experience, somebody who was seasoned or somebody who's making a transition, does this change and differ? Maybe Abhijit, you can talk about it as well.
Yeah, so there are two parts to this question, right? One is what is the relevance of the product management and how it would remain relevant in this advancements in technologies like Gen AI and AI. The second is the hiring kind of recommendations, right? Or the hiring things that I personally follow in terms of.
Yeah, and especially I want to highlight that Abhijit is hiring today, is part of the hiring panel, which is going to happen in the second session. So better listen carefully.
Right, so the relevance of product management would still remain because you certainly need a human touch, whatever that you deliver out. We at least haven't reached to a level at Oracle. To be very honest, we thought about it specifically in laboratory side, wherein we deploy robots onto the customer side, understanding the customers, observing customers 24/7, and getting that data and then feeding that data to our insights, and based on that we would deliver new functionalities and features. We miserably failed into that, and that's pretty open kind of a thing in public as well. Uh, and so the human touch wherein the customer insights, the product market fit, you understand the market really, really well. If the market needs Gen AI, if the market needs ML, if the market, and by market I mean customer segments, right? You move from one segment to the other and then the multiple customer segments create a market for you. So all those aspects would remain the same. We have moved from multiple eras. We have moved from a computational era to networking era to ubiquity era to now learning or an AI era. In each of these stages, product management has stayed relevant. And product management or a product manager, in my opinion, is not a role, it's a responsibility. Today it's called as product manager, tomorrow it might call it something else. So all these factors would still certainly remain very, very core. Because if you look at multiple different stakeholders that product management works with, there is engineering, there is sales, marketing, support, consulting. Very, very few roles and units in an organization actually work with all these different stakeholders, including customers, right? So the role would remain, or the concept and the responsibility would remain relevant for decades to come. That's definitely I'm 100% sure of. Now, who takes care of that responsibility is something that might evolve over a period in time. Now, the second question is about hiring. One of the things which I certainly look at, and we are hiring for product managers in the range of 1 to 6 years of experience right now. But then what I look at more specifically is what are the opportunities that this person had in front of him or her, and how they have delved deep into that opportunity, whether they have created additional opportunities for themselves. The second is what rest of the panel members already described as certain core concepts of product building, right? Understanding of the business is really, really critical and important. Understanding of the customer is really critical and important. Understanding of data and including the data analytics on top of it to generate the insights is very important. So all those factors contribute to whether you are a right candidate for that specific role or not, or if you have done enough in that specific role or not. It's something that I personally look forward to.
I think that becomes even more relevant the more higher you go up the hierarchy. Core deep understanding of your own business. Something that you may be a little bit flexible if somebody is, let's say, 1 to 5 years of experience, because you would understand that they would still learning about that organization.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the decision making makes more and more relevant and important as you move up the ladder.
Interesting.
That's something important.
Sure. Maybe Sumit, you can.
Yeah. Okay. So definitely, I would just echo what Abhijit just mentioned, that a product management role is basically from concept to market, identifying the problem area, quantifying it, building something, taking it to the market, and seeing it going through in revenue and everything, right? So any technology, be it generative AI or any other technology, can be an enabler. It cannot take over this entire end-to-end stream. So as Abhijit mentioned, it could be an enabler. It could enable us in parts or in complete process of concept to market, but it cannot take over. The human touch is necessary. So I stick to that point. Regarding the core skills which is required at each hierarchy level or each experience level, he has covered few things. I would just like to add on the higher stages, maybe self-awareness, very important. Second is influencing skills, because you are influencing your internal business units, right from legal to pricing to data governance to technology, engineering, and to the business development, account management, and to the market, pricing, contracts, everything. Since you are like a mini CEO, you are influencing a lot of people. Sometimes your span of control is not just within your team, it is more of outside of your team indirectly, with or without dotted lines. So influencing skills should be there. A good communication skill would definitely help. And as I mentioned earlier, is your digital fluency and the business knowledge. How the organization is earning money, where it is going, all those things as you go higher, as well as the cost aspect, because that resource cost is getting costlier, then how you're prioritizing and bringing most in the short to medium term. This is something I would like to know.
I'd like to start on a slightly lighter note about the relevance question. So, if product managers are not there, some of the critical agile ceremonies or product ceremonies like retrospectives will start failing because there won't be any product managers to blame or putting action items against. I've spoken or mentored so many of the product managers across companies, and
this remains a continuous thing. But then I've also tried to take this problem head on and try to have one-on-ones with my engineering counterparts or my UX counterparts and try to ask them that if product manager is really becoming the bottleneck, should we just kind of take them out? And they would just say that, oh, please let's not do that. We are willing to kind of work and co-create something very meaningful. Having said that, on a serious note, as an industry, I think we are still in the phase where we are trying to understand the right balance of what do we want to achieve out of a product manager role. In the initial years, if I go back to early 2010s, right, engineering was doing a lot of things by themselves. There was no concept in many of the companies that were not technologically evolved to kind of do the cloud ops or SRE, business process management requirements, everything in a single techno-functional role, and plus they do the coding. But they started understanding the value of it when someone took a step back, looked at the broader picture. I believe most of you would have seen that elephant example where different people are touching the front tail or the body and they were not able to understand what we are trying to create. But when they take a step back, they realize what the big picture is. And that's where, as product managers, the relevance really comes in. When you have to kind of take a step back, try to look at all the aspects which some of the parties are not able to see. And that's what kind of keeps them relevant. The other part is, I think, and in my companies, yes, we are in a phase where we have gone through few product managers to an army of product managers, and now we are realizing that do we really need an army, or because the kind of work that we are trying to do, just because we have a lot of people, product managers get additional work which they are ideally not supposed to do, which leads to both unrealistic expectations as well as product managers getting dissatisfied or their engagement levels going down. So it's very important for you as an individual to always introspect that what you are doing. Is it something that aligns to your career goals? Is it something that you really are enjoying? Is this something that you really join product management for? And if you're a manager, you should constantly revisit that, are you really justifying so many people in your team to kind of do the right thing? Because there are ample opportunities in the market. There are so many good emerging companies that are coming up. So that should be. So I'll just kind of stop with that. I think from an interview standpoint, people have given a lot of inputs. My only thing is, as an interviewer, I always put additional emphasis on the intent of the candidate, and if that intent is really kind of helping him solve the bigger problem rather than how they solve it, because skills can be developed over time, but intent is something that has to come from inside.
And if I just take 1 minute in terms of relevancy of the product management, I'm not promoting product management in any way, but I want to promote product management in all aspects. But if you look at the overall problem statement that an organization has, and this is very specific product management kind of a talk, there are 3 things that at a very high level, 30,000 feet or 10,000 feet high, that you need to understand first, right? One is what you need to build, how you need to build, and third is, the most important thing is why you need to build it, right? We talked enough about, over the last 2-3 panels, that we need to be close with the customers. So let me quote a few of the customer specific stakeholders that you have, customer speaking stakeholders that you have. One is your marketing and sales, right? Of course, they're important, but the incentives that they have is to do the sale, right? So they're more focused on what we can say, what customers want, right? So they're more focused on the what piece of it. The second customer relevant stakeholder is your support teams. They mostly take care of how it's something that gets built, how it's something that you can do to resolve that specific issue. The third piece, which most of the times gets missed, and that is where the product management plays a very, very important and a key role, is why you need this, why market needs it, why business needs it, right? And as long as the product managers of today and tomorrow take care of the why responsibility, they would remain relevant no matter what it is.
I completely agree with what you were saying there. And I just wanted to add one point with respect to the relevancy part. everything that we see around, and this is a product manager's perspective, so everything that you see around are products, right? And for the economy to grow, the value that is derived from any of the products that you use, that's around you, needs to grow. And product managers genuinely play a very, very, very pivotal role in increasing the value of anything that's relevant and that's out there. So without product management, it's just difficult for that to happen. So that's just 2 cents.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that stands out is that whether you call it product management or something else, there are certain core skill sets as a business person who is working with technology. And I think the most important thing is that your curiosity should drive everything. Whether it is change in technology, whether it's change in consumer, I think that level of fanaticism of just to understand what is that I need to discover, which is not been discovered up till yet. That is really, really important. I have a small example that, on a product that we did for, a major car company based in the US sitting from India. So my customer base persona was somewhere around 50 to 55-year-old male, a mechanic working in a workshop. And there was no easy way to reach out and interview this person and really understand why would somebody talk to somebody sitting in India across all the shores. So, but we really needed to get some feedback and know whether it is important or not. So what we simply did was I just added a small feedback form and saying, whatever the product is, good or bad, we would love to hear your feedback. And that small thing itself started to give me some really qualitative data and really understand what this is about. So end of the day, the theme that I am getting is that it's about understanding your customer, it's about building empathy, and it's about, over and top of it, having a little bit of a fanaticism of to know what needs to be discovered out there.
And just to add to the technology relevance part of it as well, like in HP, those of you who know HP, it's kind of a school of product management. A lot of product management leaders, gurus have come from HP. Right? This equation is there from 1940s. Right? It's not new. Right? So your success depends on your business into value into technology. It's a multiplication thing, and anything is zero in between. Your success is zero. Right? And to remain relevant, all these three factors need to be considered, and product manager needs to be aware of all of these things, at least at a surface level in one of the areas, but deep into one of the areas as well.
I just want to take one last question, and I would invite you all to ask more questions about it. So there are different kinds of PM roles out there these days. If you see, there is an API product manager, there is a UX product manager, many different kind of roles. So I myself sometimes get confused. Is it like the technological requirement in some roles is more? How much is your experience relevant for somebody who's, again, depending upon your experience? And if I can ask you about the same question along with that, is what I asked at the beginning. What you thought was true, and over a period of experience that you learned was maybe not so true. So maybe 30 to 60 seconds to each one of you.
See, you're putting 30 to 60 seconds for product managers too. But okay, so I think the first question was more about
Types of products.
Types of products, right? So the way, and this is something which is the evolution part, where you have different types of roles: data product managers, APIs, UX, generic, domain, and all of it, right? So that, I believe, is something that will change on an organization to organization basis. There is another dimension which one needs to take care of, which is the type of work that the product managers do. Broadly in three categories: inbound product management, outbound product management, and strategic product management. So while the other roles that Karan referred to are very important for you to realize that what is your pet area where you want to grow, but it's important that you constantly revisit that what is your work distribution between inbound, outbound, and strategic. Because if you're constantly just stuck into one, then your stagnancy levels are going to saturate over time. And the other part is, if you really want to kind of grow in the product management ladder, you really need to kind of start moving towards the strategic product management, where you start understanding what are the product goals, how should I achieve them, what are the build versus buy opportunities, how should I read a P&L statement and kind of make an impact. So those are, so again, I didn't want to just kind of talk about those goals, but also introduce this another dimension of inbound outbound strategic, and how do you kind of constantly revisit that.
I echo what Hardik just mentioned. See, there could be an inbound, there could be an outbound, and in between also. Okay, the product management role differs, and it is basically your core competency and in which area of a large product cycle you are placed with, be it product marketing manager or technical product manager, wherever you are. The first thing you need to do is to start stitching from A to Z. Means in whichever area you are, try understanding the technology as well as the business aspect of it and the entire product life cycle. Because that is the way you can move forward. As he said, stagnancy will kick in, your engagement level will go down, and you will start feeling fatigue. And career slow down also you will start experiencing. So the first thing is understanding the whole concept, even though you have not experienced it practically, but talking to colleagues, reading, understanding forums, upskilling yourself. Try stitching together the entire end-to-end picture within yourself. Okay, so that tomorrow you can pick and choose, or you can lead completely. Both of the things are important. Okay, and I think the second question is, what is you
thought that it's true, but you later on realized is something.
I might quote something which is very common to product managers. We thought some problems to be true, but it was not actually a problem. Okay, there are many times we force fit or invent a problem which is not actually a problem. We convince the management also with the business cases and the revenue it will bring in, engage the capacity, and later on it fails. So product failure rate is one of the key aspects which is for me. I am trying to overcome. It's still not gone. Okay, I still see product failures, which I have incubated. I have done the innovation and later on fail in the market, not able to conceptualize and succeed. Some of them do scale up, and when they scale up like anything. But the failure rate needs to be minimized as we go higher in the product management ladder.
So I'll just talk about the second part. I think we've spoken enough about the first one. And I do echo what Sumit was mentioning about the product failure rates. One of the things that we did, we made a mistake, was we were trying to ride a wave. In one of our products that we're building, so there's a new wave that's coming in, let's go with this wave, and it's going to lead to business outcomes. And of course, we did some amount of discovery, we did some user validations, customer validations, to gauge how much would customers pay, and of course we took that leap, right? And it did give initial results, but over periods of time we started to see the decline soon. Right? So one of the primary learnings for me has always been market first, product second, right? So you start to understand what's the target ICP that you want to build for, clearly define that, clearly define the persona, and by this I mean, it's not just industry or verticals or segments, but dissections at various levels. And once you have arrived at that point of view, of course you then layer it up with the challenges that persona has, and then you start to build. So that entire perspective of business first, market first, and then build is important and has always stayed relevant for me.
Yeah, so I'll tackle the first question a little differently. It depends on the organization, it depends on the product that you're working on, and depends on the requirements that the organization and expectations that an organization has from you. And there is a really good information available on internet in terms of companies like Microsoft and VMware's of the world would require you to be a little bit more technological advanced, versus companies like Airbnb. We just heard from Pinkesh about how they have changed the overall domain of product management, but companies like Facebook and Airbnb expect you to be more business oriented ones. And there are companies in between like Oracle wherein the techno-functional role also fits in well. So whichever company that you're working with currently, or whichever company that you want to work in the future, it's important to understand what is that company expectations from a role like a product manager. Of course, the job descriptions are not always done well, so that's one good thing to understand. The second thing what I would suggest is the type of the role, as Hardik also mentioned about. One of the key areas or one of the key important things that a product manager needs to know and do really well is sustainability of the products, right? You just don't want to release a product out in the market and take it out in a year or two. So you want to sustain it, and by sustain it, I also means customer success and the business success side of it. Business success needs more importance because that's where the customer success also follows from business success. So what are you doing is actually changing the dollar amount, is adding revenue, reducing cost, whether it's directly impacting that revenue, whether it's directly impacting the cost reduction, or you're doing some kind of a secondary metric which is indirectly impacting that, is also something important for you to understand. And there are multiple roles in which, like product manager, product owner, technical product manager, technical product owner that exist in the market today. The second question, again, there are so many things which I would have known before. I would have done it better. I just quote a couple of them. Knowing customers. What I believe is you do some kind of a survey and then you do understand your customers really, really well by observing them once and then building the products. And that's where continuous discovery and continuous deployment has helped us a lot in terms of releasing newer versions and patching up the products really, really quickly by understanding the needs of the customers, because they change quite a lot, not so much in the B2B world, but of course a lot in the B2C. And the second is what I always believed is failed products are bad. You should be 100% successful all the times. I have not met a product manager wherein they have been 100% successful at every singular product that they have launched in. So
probably you're not experimenting enough if you are doing.
Probably you're not experimenting enough. Yeah, right. So those are the two things which I would say.
One final question, maybe if I can probe you on that, Vijay, before we go out for our questions. Would you be open to hiring somebody who is not really from the industry, coming to a different role? Maybe, let's say, for example, a lot of you spoke about, I really like, Hardik, what you mentioned about being strategic in the long run. I think that's more important. But let's say, if I want to get into a API product management role, I do not generally come from it, but I have learned all the skill sets. Would you be open to, hiring somebody like that?
I always consider potential above whatever skill set that you complete, that you showcase in your resume or in your portfolio. So absolutely yes, but again, the right answer to most of the product management is it depends. Whether I want somebody to start working on a specific product from day one and that's the need that I have, probably I would look out for somebody who is experienced. But majority of the times I look for potential and look for other domains who can also introduce better experience and better diversity in my domain as well.
Interesting. Thank you so much.